Greetings, YouTube. I have frequently spoke about the fact that I am anti-corporate. Not truly anti-capitalist. I believe that capitalism can work as long as it is well regulated. And that is the key. Well regulated. As opposed to the current old Wild West capitalism we have in the world today. And I frequently use the term people before profit. Well, Noam Chomsky has chosen the title of his book, Profit Over People. He kind of reversed the phrase, but it's this very similar sentiment. And this is his book, Profit Over People, Neoliberalism and Global Order, with an introduction by Robert W. McChesney, who I actually don't know who that gentleman is. He's very well spoken, however. This isn't a particularly heavy book as far as size is concerned, but it has a lot of ideas, a lot of information, and most of it is really, really depressing. Now, the first thing I noticed about Mr. Chomsky, and I don't remember the last time, this is the last time I read him. I've read some of his work on linguistics. He comes off sounding like a tool. I'm starting to read this and I'm like, wow, he just sounds like he's really full of himself. Just the way he turns a phrase. But I got over that fairly quickly. After the first chapter, I kind of just faded into the background. I began to read the information and kind of ignore his style, which is okay, because again, his style is it's a little on the tool side. And I've known about a lot of the crimes committed against humanity by corporations, and the fact that they are directly, absolutely opposed to true democracy, because true democracy might harm them. But seeing all of the litany of the crimes committed against humanity by corporations in one book, page after page after page, it was like hammer blows. It was just boom, boom, and it just became so heavy. It was like slogging through thick mud. It was painful when you began to see how corporations have undermined democracy everywhere. I also learned something interesting I didn't know, that at one time, Colombia had a thriving wheat production. In fact, they were major wheat exporters. Until, of course, the United States got involved and, through political dealings, undercut that industry to the point where it disappeared. And then suddenly narco-trafficking became very, very lucrative and attractive. It's almost as if American corporations helped to create the horrible political situation that exists today in Colombia. But it made them lots of money. And that's what this is all about. Taking as much of the world's resources and concentrating them into the pockets of the fewest number of people possible. That's the gist of this book, and that's, of course, the major problem in the world today. That is behind every economic and political problem on this planet, is the concentration of wealth into the 1%, into the coffers of the rich and the uber-rich. We live on a planet. There are 7 billion of us. And every one of us has an equal share in this world. No one in this world is born deserving or worthy of more than an equal share. Yes, that's a radically socialist view, but it's the truth. I don't care if you're a child born in Nigeria, China, South America, Finland, Australia, New Zealand, or America, Canada, Mexico. I don't care where you're born. You are not less worthy than a wealthy person. You are not less deserving of your fair share of the wealth and resources of this world. And the fact that some folks have stolen that from us is a crime. And in my opinion, a crime against humanity. If we had true democracy, people could actually vote and say, no, we don't want corporations to have those tax breaks. Or we don't want the wealthy to be as wealthy as they are. Most people believe in some form of capitalism. Most people accept the fact that There will always be people who have less money, and there will be people who have more money. I'm okay with that as well. But the economic disparity in this world, inequality, is so huge that it should revolt and disgust any thinking person. Which is, of course, why corporations help to undermine education systems as well, turning the education systems of the world into propaganda machines, giving people a false sense of history, a clean Disney-like view of the world that helps to foster and further the machinations of the wealthy. It's disgusting. And this book puts it together really, really well. I recommend this book. You need to read it. It goes into incredible detail about how corporations in the world today and in the past, and I'm talking from the first corporations being formed, the first ones back in the 16th and 17th centuries, how they began to skew the political environment in their favor. Even in an era when there was no true democracy, when democracy was just the wealthy voting, they still were skewing the political structures of the world to favor themselves and to harm and to prey upon and to oppress everyone else. The 1% have created class warfare. They have waged class warfare against us. This is not something we started. This is not something that we want. This is not something that is been concocted by the people. It is something that has been created and put into place by the wealthy. A war they have waged against us successfully for centuries. Now we should be doing something about this. We should be voting for the right people. We should be making sure that democracy functions. That we take back the wealth of this world that belongs to us. And Mr. Chomsky is with me on that. He just very well spoken and accepted and respected the world over, whereas I am just sitting here talking to a camera. So if you have any interest in social equality, in class warfare, in understanding that profit over people is a horrible idea and will lead to the death of democracy, I suggest you read this book. It's worth your time, regardless of how difficult it may be initially to get over Mr. Chomsky's writing style. I still think it's worth your time. So, go forth, get a pot copy, read it, and get back to me.